Alex Newell plays Mo on Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. I'm Kevin Jacobson of Gold Derby here with Alex. And let's start with this. I feel like Mo experienced quite a bit of growth in season two, not only, personally, but professionally too. What were you most excited to explore with Mo this season?
I think what I was most excited was getting out of the house. Last season, we were really in Mo's apartment the entire time, and it was kind of, I want to say, just kind of there to service Zoe and just kind of be that person that's just that next door neighbor that's always around, that doesn't have a job, doesn't do anything. So I was really excited to like get out and start the business partnership and the franchise with the storyline with Max and Skylar. But just really making this person a real person that is relatable and is an everyday kind of person that goes through the same stuff that we all go through.
Yeah. Well, we also have the arrival of Perry, who is a fire marshal, and he has some chemistry with Mo pretty much right away. What do you think that they saw in each other that just gave them that sort of immediate connection?
I think they saw each other in a sense. You know, that first meeting, it's very combative, if you want to call it, of playing a somewhat weird game of the dozen of sarcasm, of like playing with each other and me throwing shade and Perry throwing it right back. It's kind of that. I love that part of it. It didn't start off as like love at first sight. It was just confusing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, can you talk about what it was like working with David St. Louis and sort of forming that connection?
Working with David is a dream. He's so sweet, and like listening to that man talk, it's like I can't help but like be in love with him. It's just his voice is his own presence. He is just so generous of an actor, and that's all you can hope for from a partner and on a show.
Yeah. Well, another partner that you had and have continued to have throughout the series is with Skylar Aston as Max, with the two of them going into business together. What do you think it is that is making them work so well as business partners?
I think it's just polar. I mean, even singing opposites attract. Polar opposite people just coming. I mean, it's the same thing with Zoe. That friendship is so like opposite that it just works and it's complementary. It's just it's inevitable because when you're so different, you can't help but find similarities and have the same mindsets.
Yeah. Well, another interesting development this year is the tackling of systemic racism, which is maybe not something you would expect the show to cover. And I talked with John Clarence Stewart about this the other week, and he was saying how he was kind of apprehensive about it in the beginning and wondering how it was going to be tackled, but that ultimately he was happy with how that whole episode was handled. And it's mostly Simon's storyline, but there's also the dynamic to it where Zoe comes to Mo to ask how to handle the situation with Simon, and Mo kind of calls her out in a way for kind of expecting Mo to do the work for her. Did you have any feelings for yourself of apprehensiveness when you first found out that you would be tackling this?
I mean, you know, my motto is every story has to be told. And if you want to tell it in the best way possible that you can. And even though I had nothing to do with the storyline other than that little moment, it is a lot to have to be the emotional heavy lifting to do all of the extra work for Zoe and to not have her realize that she's leaning into that and then asking me to basically tell her how to talk to another black person while she's talking to a black person. It's like I don't understand how you don't see that that's wrong. Um, I reading the first draft because there were so many drafts of it. Of course, you're hesitant because you know it's a precious thing and you want to get it right and you don't want to get it wrong, especially when you're the person that it affects.
Yeah, and I heard there was, stuff put in place as far as sort of handing it over to black writers and directors and having John Clarence Stewart involved. So I think that probably helped things. And also just speaking to the Zoe aspect, I feel like she has so much going on and she just spills everything about her life to Mo. And we do see Mo helping her out, but we also do see some pushing back a little bit when Zoe's relying on a little bit too much of Mo. So it's like they're best friends, but it can be kind of a complex relationship. And then in the
And
finale,
it is, yeah.
yeah. And in the finale, there's a scene that I think just kind of says it all about their relationship, where Mo says that, they're best friends, but also in talking to Perry, Mo is like, you've got kids, I've got her, get used to it. And also saying, he's been through all the other nonsense with Zoey, and you won't be missing the best part here, which is going to the airport and Zoey professing her love. How do you think Mo truly sees Zoey in his mind?
I think Mo sees Zoey as who she is. There's no like there's no like preconceived notions. There's nothing like, oh, I'm just in for the fun. I'm in for the gag. I think Mo truly just sees Zoey, all as flawed as she is, as smart as she is, as quirky as she is. Mo literally sees that and appreciates it, because you can't have this person who is larger than life and this flamboyant and this other in the world, just othered in the world, not see another person just for who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wanted to also just highlight a very special performance you gave this season, which is I Look to You, which is where Perry's kids are meeting Mo for the first time at church. And church is something that matters pretty deeply to Mo. So it's a big step. And I was looking back on the interview that my colleague Rob did with you last year, and you had mentioned wanting to do a Whitney song in season 2. And here we are. Did that performance mean something kind of extra special to you?
I did. I still am the biggest Whitney fan, and to kind of get to just even step into those shoes for just that minute and a half was just otherworldly. I love singing Whitney's music. I sing it around my house. When I said that last season, I really meant it. And I didn't even say anything to Austin or anybody about singing Whitney on the show. I just kind of always wanted to. That song is so precious to me. Yeah, it's a good song for me. I love it so.
Yeah. Well, you do get a variety of songs to sing this year. Some of them up tempo, some ballads, duets. I mean, a Blake Shelton song, even, which I did
Yeah.
not see coming. Yeah. Did you find any of those to be more of a challenge than others as far as vocally or choreography or?
Never. I that's one thing that I did say that going into season 3 is I want to be more challenged in singing in what I'm singing on the show, because it's just kind of go in, sing, and I'm really good at that. I can go and I can sing anything. But no, everything was pretty through line. I think there's one thing that was extremely challenging that no one knows that I did. There was this scene where Mo is listening to an aria in the next apartment while Max and Zoey are trying to do the deed and have a nice little date. And I'm screaming opera at the top of my lungs. I had to go into the studio and record that verbatim, just so I had to learn opera. I think that was the hardest thing, learning German just for something that's in the next room, just for like ADR. That was the hardest part this season for me. It took me 3 hours.
Yeah. Well, people obviously know you not only from this, but from Glee, another show that had a lot of covers of pop songs. I'm wondering if you can just sort of compare and contrast your experiences on Glee versus Zoe's as far as preparing for a performance and the choreography and, the atmosphere on set and your ability to make suggestions, things like that.
On Glee, we got a script, the songs were songs, and it was a well-oiled machine. It was they had it down to a science and a formula. On Glee, it was, I could get a song the day before they were filming it, and I'd have to go record it, learn the choreography all in one day, and then film it the next day. Here on Zoe's, we like to have a little bit more padding time because there's a different iteration, and all stems from a feeling. And we really want to hone in that it's not just performative. It's not like we're just doing it just to do it. We're doing it that from a real emotion. We're doing it because it comes from a place of hurt, pain, happiness, sadness, all of these different things. So we like to have the time to really flesh it out and really make sure it's servicing the story that we're telling, rather than being performative. But preparing for Glee was just like a whirlwind. There were times that I would quite literally lip sync to my guide vocalist while filming it, and then go to the studio the next day or that night and record the actual vocals verbatim as what I already did. So just doing it completely backwards, it was a lot. But I loved
Yeah.
it. And it prepared me for this, because if anything changes, I'm just like, great, let's do it.
Right. It's kind of like a boot camp for a musical show, I
Yes.
suppose. And especially joining like season 3 or 4 when you did, I'm sure they had it pretty well-oiled machine, like
It
you
was
said.
tight knit.
Yeah, right. Well, you were nominated at the Critics' Choice Awards earlier this year for Zoey's, which was very exciting. Can you tell me about just finding out about that news and also attending the virtual ceremony and that whole experience?
I had no idea. I literally had no idea. I went through my day at work, and I'm just sitting there on my phone, twiddling my thumbs, not checking, not looking for it. And Austin and Skylar walk in and say, congratulations. And I was just like, for what? And they're like, you were nominated for a Critics' Choice. And I was just like, what? Really? It was so lovely to find out, and to be at work while finding out, and just kind of being with my coworkers for it, and that was nice. And then attending this virtual event, as virtual as it was, just like sitting in a hotel room with a camera and a ring light with a bottle of champagne, and just kind of enjoying it and watching it. And it was low stakes, but like it was just nice. It was a nice experience, and I'm so happy and fortunate that I got to.
Yeah. And also the fact that, I mean, you were singled out. It's not like, the whole sort of, they just loved the show so much that you just sort of got in. Like you were singled out for your performance. I think that's pretty special.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. You never really know what you're doing until someone else notices it and you get recognition for it. Because I
Mm.
just like to sing, dance, and act and be pretty.
Right. And people are noticing.
Yeah.
But so the last we see of Mo in season 2 is, I think it's at the dinner table with Perry and his kids, and they're in a very kind of domestic situation. Assuming we do get a third season of the show, fingers crossed. How do you see Mo operating in that kind of an environment?
Failing. I see Mo failing so hard, but still learning and succeeding and thriving, because we can't fail without learning. But it's I think for Mo going into this more domestic stepmommy kind of lane, it's so the things are boundless. The opportunities are boundless, because you're not also just getting to know Perry, you're getting to know the children and them individually, not just like them as a unit, all whilst getting to know their other father. There's so many things and problems and lovely moments that could happen. And, me wanting to have my own family one day, I think it's a wonderful boot camp. And I can live vicariously through Mo throughout all of it.
Mm. That's true. Yeah, and I'm always curious how actors feel about the characters they play. And I'm wondering if you had the ability to just talk to Mo and have a conversation, would you offer any advice or, guidance or ask questions? What do you think that you would say? What would that dialogue be?
I have no idea. It would be a loud conversation for number one, and there would be so much wine. But I think I would say take a beat. I think I would tell Mo to take a whole beat before responding. Just think about everything before you saying it, because it's starting to bleed into my own life, because I know Mo so well that I just start speaking before I think about it. And no, normally my motto is, if I say no, I've already thought about it, because I have. But sometimes I'll just say no without even thinking about it and be like, wait, no, I didn't mean that. I really didn't mean that. So I would tell Mo to take a beat, and then it'd be a whole argument, and we'd have so much fun with that too.
Yeah. Are there other things? I know you mentioned sort of challenging yourself and the domestic situation of Mo, but are there truly things that in your mind you're hoping to explore more with Mo for a potential third season?
I have been screaming this at the tops of my lungs for so long that I want Amber Riley to be my sister. I
Oh,
want
wow.
Niecy Nash to be my mom. I have been screaming this at the tops of my lungs. I need it to happen.
Well,
Because
we're
the
gonna.
world needs a duet. Oh, the world needs a duet between Amber and I.
It does. We deserve that. It's good to manifest that. Yes. All right. Well, for those of you watching, subscribe for more interviews and head to goldderby.com to make your Emmy predictions. Thank you so much, Alex, for chatting with me today.
No problems. Thank you.